What you doing now?
Oh, I have to send us live. You have to be live because remember, somebody's watching the presentation. Oh, now you're back up. You're back
You said I could sit like
oh my God.
no, I'll turn it off.
Yeah. It's just I just minimized it so
Yeah.
everything's there and that's what we
Okay.
okay. I gotta get to this other news. Come on.
How you doing? Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to Rotary Club LaGrange. So glad to have you with us. Appreciate you taking time to be here. Really looking forward to our program today. We have Jenny Cruz Sanders with us, who's with the State Department of Arms at UGA. And, you know, everybody in this room knows this, but good things and good results follow strong leadership, and that has absolutely been the case with her. So looking forward to hearing from her. We have a couple of announcements, but we're going to start off the program with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Sandra Bowie if you would lead us in invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we lift our prayer and adoration, praise, and gratitude. We are so blessed. Thank you for this food and for these friends. Inspire us, Father. Lead us. And may we show our love for you, Father, as we know others.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. So we're fortunate we have some guests today. We want to introduce you all. I'm really pleased we have some of our friends from Hills and Dales with us, so appreciate you guys taking time to be here. We have other guests as well. I'm going to ask Kelsey if she would introduce you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our guests. Please stand when your name is called and remain standing until all names have been introduced. Our first guest is Chris Smith, guest of Carlton Wood. Next, we have Helen Phillips, guest of Carlton Woods. Next, David Brown, guest of Carlton Wood. Next, we have Dale Honeycutt, guest of Trip Penn. Next, Tom Guffin. Then we have Bill Mallett, guest of Concordia. Welcome.
Hasn't Kelsey done a great job this year? Let's thank her. Let's see her. So to all of our guests, we'd love to have you back anytime, so please plan to join us. We have some great programs coming up. If you're interested in getting more involved or potentially joining, please do let us know. We have some birthdays today. I want to mention those. So first of all, Jeff Wright on January 31st, that's coming up. And speaking of people who've done a good job, Jeff has done an amazing job with the Bulls. So really, so Bill Honeycutt, he's with a group that's taking a trip to Dalton today, but his birthday is February 1st. And then Bill Bowling, February 3rd. You want to share a number with us?
Yeah.
It's a good number.
Every number's a good number.
Let me just say, I want to look that good when I'm 69 instead of his age. But whatever he's eating and drinking, we need to follow that. We do have some club member anniversaries. Coleman Foss has been with us for 5 years, and Jim Thornton, who's still a member, has been with us for 22 years. We do have a wedding anniversary. Brandon Ely has been married for 22 years, and I just want to mention, Rotarians are involved in leadership around the community, and Brandon did a fantastic job as chamber chair over the past year. So really, really grateful for him taking such an important role in the community. So a couple of things. I want to remind everybody, if you would, to make a donation to the Alzheimer's Research Trust. The buckets are on your table. I want to let you all know, just as a reminder, that we're going to be meeting on February 14th at Oak Fusky Center. So we won't be here. We'll be at Oak Fusky. Please let Kelsey know if you're planning to come. And I hope you are. If you haven't seen the facility, it's fantastic. Just a beautiful, beautiful spot in the community. So I'd love to have you all there. We got an upcoming event at LaGrange College tomorrow night. That's pretty cool to let you all know about. So they're having St. Olaf Choir, a nationally acclaimed choral ensemble, and they'll be at the Callaway Auditorium tomorrow night at 7:30. So it's worth checking out if you're available. And then finally, and we're not going to announce this much more, but the annual conference is March 21st if you're interested. So we do have a little time today for Happy Dollar. So what's going well for you? What's going well in your family, your job, community? What are we happy about today? Thank you, Charlotte.
Well, number one is Barbara had a good surgery yesterday. They had planned to do 2. They found a cyst on her back, and they needed to fuse some vertebrae. So they were able to do 1 of the 2 surgeries. We'll find out later when they might do the other surgery. I don't know why they didn't finish the surgery. But anyway, her daughter is here. And her daughter is here. Kimmy's just like Miss Google. She works for one of those kind of companies. Funny monkey survey or chimp survey monkey. Survey monkey. One of them. They got bought out anyway. Not that name anymore. But anyway, and so she's being well cared for. And I'm happy that my little granddaughter is first year in private school in Atlanta, and they're on a field trip to Morocco. Wow, isn't that something?
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, if you have never heard the St. Olaf Choir, you need to go hear them. They are fabulous. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other community announcements to share? If not, we'll move forward with our program. So, how many of you have been to Hills Days? Most of you. So if you haven't, I'd encourage you to come out. There's, you guys go there every day. But, no, they don't. Listen, I'm bragging on our team. We're really fortunate to have so many talented individuals and people that know so much about horticulture and gardening. And Carlton is among those. Carlton is incredibly talented, great experience, strong leader, and I'm pleased to invite Carlton to come up and introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Trip. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Cruz Sanders, also known as Jenny. Jenny's the director of the State Botanical Garden of Georgia, located in Athens, Georgia. The garden is part of the UGA's Public Service and Outreach Division, and this year they're celebrating 56 years of public gardening, which is an amazing accomplishment. Prior to being appointed as the director, Jenny was the vice president of science and conservation at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. In 2010, Jenny obtained her BA at Boston University, and then she did her master's and PhD in botany, probably the only botanist in this room, and at UGA. She's won numerous national and international awards for her work in plant conservation. Jenny became the director of the Botanical Garden in 2017, and in selecting Jenny, the university made a wise choice. I've watched her leadership and at the Botanical Garden, it's really just been transformative, what's been done in the last 7 years or so. At the garden, Jenny and the staff, I thought it was 35. That's how many I found on the website, but they have a lot of part-time people too, so it's actually significantly larger. But the staff and a contingent of volunteers and supporters offer robust programs to connect people to plants. And all you have to do, I don't know if you brought any, but they have a wonderful newsletter, which I think is available online. All you have to do is look at the newsletter, which runs 30 pages, and you'll see that it's robust. They offer a lot of programs that encourage people to appreciate our botanical and natural world. Under her leadership, they opened the award-winning Alice H. Richards Children's Garden, and that brought a whole new audience to the garden with lots of thousands of youngsters. She also facilitated the opening of the new Porcelain and Decorative Arts Museum in 2022, thanks to the generosity of Dean Dave Sanders. And I was fortunate to go to the dedication, and it's just out of this world. You've got to go. If you've never seen the porcelain gallery there, it is just really spectacular. I know Jenny is also particularly proud of the Mimsy Lanier Center for Native Plant Studies and all the work that the Botanical Garden is doing to preserve native plants in our state and across the Southeast. So let's please give Jenny a warm Rotary welcome.
Thank you so much, Carlton, for that lovely introduction, and to Trip for the invitation to come and be with you today. It is a real honor to be on the program for the 100th anniversary year of LaGrange Rotary Club. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you as community leaders. And it is an honor to be a part of this 100-year celebration for your Rotary Club, which was established by Fuller E. Calloway Sr. in 1923. We share a close relationship with Calloway. In fact, the Calloway name is throughout the State Botanical Garden. And I want to recognize the support of the Calloway Foundation, because when I look back, the Calloway Foundation has supported the Botanical Garden every decade of our existence and has helped us to grow and reach our mission. And so we feel a close association with LaGrange. And I warmly invite you all to come and visit me in Athens. I hope you will. Both the University of Georgia and the Calloway Foundation share a commitment to inspiring and connecting people with nature in ways that improve our well-being and inform and transform communities. So here we have the 1975 Calloway Administration Building, which is where my office is. And it was our visitor center, our education center, and it really served every purpose. Now it's our administration building and our conservation labs. And in 1982, we completed our master plan, and here it is being presented to President Carter and Rosalind Carter. And one of the features of the 1982 Garden Master Plan was a new visitor center, which was named the Alice Hand Calloway Visitor Center and Conservatory. And today it serves as
the center, the jewel of our botanical garden, where we welcome 370,000 visitors a year. It's a safe, free, and accessible place for people to come and connect to educational opportunities and connect to nature and connect to all the things we're proud of at our botanical garden. So here's just a few numbers from the last year, and then I'm going to tell you some stories. So in our last year, we had 250 educational programs that served 9,316 attendees. 7,309 were youth participants. We welcomed 260 children to our summer camps over 7.5 weeks. And we did, our visitation has increased significantly, as Carlton mentioned. 5 years ago, annual visitation was 240,000 visitors a year, so it's grown significantly. And accessibility and keeping the public knowing about the garden and helping make it easy for the public to come to the garden is one of our most significant things we're doing right now. We have 16,000 planting sessions. They're up from 15,000 5 years ago. And our conservation staff in the last year traveled 7,389 miles to 117 field sites for restoration and seed collection. We've been working on imperial plant conservation for almost 30 years. And Georgia has the highest plant species diversity of any state on the East Coast. So we have significant plant resources to conserve. And one of the things we're beginning to focus on now is not just the rare plants in Georgia. About 750 of our species in our state are considered rare in our state, but also those workhorse species that are going to help us conserve habitats for resilience, for food security, for emergency preparedness. So we're spending a significant amount of time looking at native plant collections, and I'll talk about that a little bit. So in the last year, we made nearly 100,000 collected nearly 100,000 native plant seeds for restoration programs. So the Botanical Garden was established in 1968 as a living laboratory for the University of Georgia. In the mid-1980s, in 1984, it was established through a resolution of the General Assembly as the State Botanical Garden of Georgia. We take that mission seriously, and we seek to serve all citizens of Georgia, not just the members of our community in Athens, Georgia. Since its establishment, the garden has grown to include 33 acres of cultivated spaces that offer not only a way to connect with plants and the essential role they play in supporting life on this planet, but also as a safe, free, and accessible venue for physical and mental well-being. And we saw this most significantly during COVID, when our visitation increased and people were coming to walk our trails. With spaces to visit for family and friends and educational programming, many areas in the garden were fully funded through private donations. The opening of our children's garden in 2019 resulted in a 34% increase in visitation, and it's a place where we can teach about geography, physiographic regions, and water systems, as well as information about rare plants and ecosystems and where our food comes from and how it's grown. The Botanical Garden also has 290 acres of natural areas, including 10 of the 16 high-priority natural areas in the Piedmont of Georgia, as identified by our state's Wildlife Action Plan, with trails for field trips and environmental education. A university garden, such as the State Botanical Garden of Georgia, offers a venue for educational opportunities that include festivals for audiences that might not normally come to a college campus. And so here, like this group of 1,500 visitors who came to Insectival in September this past year. And it's also a place for sharing broader impacts of research. So we can help share and connect the public with scientific information that's gathered in the laboratories and classrooms at the university. This garden also has a formalized experiential learning program called Learning by Leading, where since 2018, we've trained 300 students. We've mentored them up a leadership ladder. So university students come and begin with us through just a basic internship, and as they stay with us over semesters, they gain greater leadership opportunities, maybe by leading another group of students or creating a signature project. We call this co-creating with our staff and faculty mentors. And we're also creating leadership opportunities for our staff so they can grow in their own leadership potential as they work with the students. So some of these projects include increasing environmental literacy and outdoor educational opportunities, restoring native plant communities and native plant species to help address some of the grand challenges in our state. They're also learning technological skills for mapping and databasing important collections. So these students are advancing the GIS maps and documented information of our 60,000 accessions in our plant collection. Another recent initiative at the State Botanical Garden is related to increasing native plant materials development. So this is our Conservation Research Associate, Will Rogers, who is leading our iNaturalist program, which is funded through the USDA Forest Service. So one of the challenges associated with native plant materials development is that common plants aren't quite as common as they used to be. We think we know, in fact, it's actually quite easy. It's much easier to study rare species because they're tracked. We know exactly where they are and we know how many there are. So there are not a lot of them, but we know where they are. But more common species are actually quite difficult to find. And so with iNaturalist, we invite the public to help us identify where these plants are. With that public information, we download the maps, and then our team develops plans for going out and collecting seed at the right time of year, which is what led to those 100,000 seeds that were collected this past fall. So Will has been developing that. He will come and speak to you all in LaGrange. He would love to, and train you on opening up your phones and helping us track native plant materials development, where they're growing in this part of Georgia. And here, these students are helping us to map milkweed for monarch. So one of those common native plants that is hard to propagate and hard to locate is milkweed. And so we're encouraging students to go out safely. We have safety guidelines to go out onto roadsides and other natural areas to help us map where these milkweeds are occurring so we can come back and collect seed with permission. So one of our most recent programs is called Meet Me in the Garden. And it's aimed at adapting our educational programs for a new audience, one that includes dementia patients and their caregivers, together with our partners at the Cognitive Aging Research and Education Center at University of Georgia. So this project is modeled after a transformative program at the MoMA called Meet Me at the MoMA. It was very active between 2007 and 2014, but we feel that it's even better adapted for a sensory experience, a multi-sensory experience that you can have in a botanical garden, where there are smells and things to touch and feel and taste. You know this is a significant issue. In rural Georgia alone, access for patients with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, those support services are very limited, and yet risk factors are prevalent. Everyone is touched. And Georgians provide millions of hours in unpaid care annually. Georgia's caregivers, usually a family member, spouse, or partner, require an additional $304 million annually for their own stress-related healthcare needs. We know we're not going to solve the issue of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, but we also think that this can increase the quality of life through care gardens. So in the past year, we've piloted this program with our partners in the Institute of Gerontology at the University of Georgia. And key findings include that participants showed an increased closeness and increased supportive relationships. Approximately 65% of participants experienced joy or expressed joy in interacting with the other participants. Caregiver participants reported more conversation, engagement, and laughter with their loved one at home while participating in take-home activities. So we're excited to continue to do this program both at the Botanical Garden, but the next phase is to build care gardens, cognitive aging research and education gardens, at other locations across Georgia, both at the Care Center on the University of Georgia Health Campus, but we're talking with Archway Partnership and other partners for how we could bring these gardens, working with the Master Gardener program across Georgia to other locations throughout Georgia, and then sharing our educational program with these locations. So I'm very excited about that, and I think it's something we're committed to. Here, these patients and their care partners are interacting with some of our staff in the children's garden at this garden. So a few new initiatives. I talked about earlier projects that were supported by the Callaway Foundation. This is another one that was supported by the Callaway Foundation, the new outdoor elevator, which increases accessibility in the State Botanical Garden. So in 2019, when we opened our children's garden, the children's garden is built where everyone's favorite parking lot was. 65 spaces, or 22 spaces that 65 people would try to park in at the same time. And so when that parking lot went away, we knew we had to address accessibility into the garden. The main parking lot is 30 feet above the beautiful visitor center and visitor center plaza that we have. So in traveling in Hong Kong at a cultural center, I saw outdoor elevators, and I thought, why not? Let's do it in Africa. And so with generous support from the Callaway Foundation and other donors, we were able to build the accessible entrance into the garden, which literally has transformed what we can do, because people can come to the garden easily. And it's next to the Porcelain and Decorative Arts Museum that I'll tell you about next. So we want to recognize this important project and what it's meant to the Botanical Garden. I don't have time today to go into all of the amazing collections we have in the Porcelain and Decorative Arts Museum, so I'm just going to give a little taste. But we are so grateful to Dean Day Sanders for donating her significant collection of porcelain and decorative arts to the State Botanical Garden. And it is also free to visit. I think of this as the garden indoors. This is the Iris collection on display. And many of these were created by Diane Lewis of the Connoisseur Porcelain Manufactory. She was a dear friend of Dean Day Sanders. And her son visited and was in tears actually when we dedicated the museum, because he said, this is the largest collection of Mom's porcelain anywhere in the world, and the fact that it's free and in an educational institution really would mean a lot to her. She died a few years ago. But what's really cool, and I don't have time to tell you all the stories this afternoon, but there is direct connection between the history of porcelain, especially European porcelain, and botanical exploration. There's a long history between botanical gardens and the history of porcelain manufacturing. One quick example is Chelsea Porcelain Factory, which was just around the corner from Chelsea Physic Garden, and had the Hans Sloane collection of porcelain, which was actually reproductions of scientific illustrations of plants that were collected by the Bartrams and sent back to England. So there's this wonderful history, and that was in the mid-1700s. The Flora Danica collection, the Flora Danica is a flora of Denmark, conducted by the Copenhagen Botanical Garden. It took about 197 years to complete. We have an original flora of Denmark that with all of the scientific illustrations, and they were copied onto the Flora Danica porcelain collection, which was initiated in the late 1700s, and we have a set of Flora Danica on display too. It is wonderful to see these connections between art and nature, and think about how artists were inspired by nature, and that's one of our purposes, is to bring people into the Porcelain and Decorative Arts Museum, see how artists across the ages have been inspired by nature, through careful observation, this is what scientists do, this is what I do as a botanist, and then go out and ask questions and be re-inspired, and then come back and re-look. So it's an iterative process, and it's really fun and exciting to be a part of. And now I think I'm doing it. And so I also wanted to tell you about one of our newest initiatives, Winter Wonder Lights. It's so much fun to invite the public to the garden in the wintertime, and they think otherwise they might not want to come to a garden. The days are short, the plants are silent. So a few years ago, in 2021, we initiated the first Winter Wonder Lights at the State Botanical Garden of Georgia. And it's won 2 awards 2 years in a row as a community choice effort. You can see our Wonder Lights there with hairy dogs celebrating. So what's fun about Winter Wonder Lights is that I feel like someone was telling me the small business, third year of a small business can be an inflection point, and they'll tell you if you've got something or not. And we feel that we do. We see an inflection point with Winter Wonder Lights. So in the first year of Winter Wonder Lights, we welcomed 45,000 people in a 6-week period. And then in year 2, we welcomed 56,000 people to the garden in a 6-week period. And in 2023, this past year, we ran Winter Wonder Lights from November 22nd through to December 30th. We had 63,670 people come through. So people, many of whom have not been to the garden before, who are discovering it for the first time. Through my own observations, I hear people talking about plants while they walk through. They're looking at the architecture of the trees, they're looking at the magnolia buds, they're looking at our cactus collections in the conservatory. And so we're reaching people with stories about plants, but also we're giving people a chance to build stronger relationships, to be there with their children, to be there with their grandchildren, to be there with their friends, and form strong bonds and memories and traditions during this period of time. So like it or not, we're doing Winter Wonder Lights from now on. So it's about a half-mile trail. And we have a charge for VIP parking on the site. We only have 194 parking spaces at the Botanical Garden. So we partner with athletics to offer free parking and a UGA shuttle to the Botanical Garden. So we subsidize that free parking at $76,000 over a 6-week period so that the community can get to the Botanical Garden and parking fees are not an obstacle to them. And we partner with local companies, which I'm pretty proud of. We've partnered with a local environmental design company to design the light show. They had never done it before, Coons Environmental Design, but we thought, I just said, don't make it cheesy. Like, we went through garden with lights, please garden with lights. Let's think about making rooms with lights. So Peppermint Plaza, Winter Wonder Cave. We had night rooms this year. And we also partnered with Condor Chocolate to serve hot chocolates and make it kind of a boutique experience, something our visitors may not have experienced before. We partnered with a local landscape company to install and deinstall the show. So we're contributing to the local economy while we're also offering awesome opportunity. This past year, we served 19,604 cups of chocolate. Don't know how many of them ended up on the ground. That sometimes happens a lot. Our gift shop revenue during the 6-week period is more than our gift shop revenue during every other month of the year. So for us, it's helping us to invest in the garden, invest in deferred maintenance, grow positions, grow professional opportunities for our team, and it's really important. Some of you, I know a lot of business-minded folks in the room. Our state allocation is about 1.3 million. Our annual operating budget is 4.6 million. So we make up the difference. And this is really an important way for us to diversify our revenue. I think we had at least 10 marriage proposals that I know of. So we invite them to come back and have their wedding at the Botanical Garden. And finally, our newest initiative that we're fundraising for, quiet fundraising phase, is for a new entrance. So this is what the entrance looks like. It was designed for about 50,000 visitors a year. We have 370,000 visitors a year. So if we're going to continue to offer the really stellar programming that our team is developing, we need a new entrance. So this is what we're working on. This is what it looks like when you approach the State Botanical Garden. Make a mental note, so when you do come visit us, you don't run past the entrance. A lot of people do. And when I rode the free shuttle to our light show just a few weeks ago, I walked, there are 3 buses, UGA buses for our youngest visitors. That's the most exciting thing they do all night long. UGA bus. So they park for free, they get on the UGA bus, the Bulldog bus, and then they ride down to the Botanical Garden. So these 3 buses are running continuously full of people for 5 hours every night for 6 weeks. And every single time those buses turn into our entrance, a UGA police officer takes a rose, walks out into the middle of traffic, stopping you in both directions in the dark, and the bus pulls into the opposite lane to make a right-hand turn into our garden. And that's not okay. That's why we need to fix that and build a new entrance and increase the safety of people coming to the garden, the safety of the bus drivers and the support services that we have at UGA. And every time a tour bus comes, they run into our front garden bed or wall. So one day they'll knock it down and we'll have to get the entrance. But for now, we're imagining just a much larger, more graceful entrance that will increase parking and help us to continue to serve the public in a way that's necessary. So I thank you for your attention. I welcome your questions. Please remember the State Botanical Garden is not in Atlanta, it's in Athens at the University of Georgia, and we are so proud to serve the citizens of Georgia with what we know and our expertise. Thank you.
So I'm wondering about the extent of our environmental diversity is pretty amazing in this state. From the Okeechobee Swamp to the sea, to the Piedmont, to the mountains, to the plants in all of those areas, can they be found at the State Botanical Garden?
Not yet. Not yet, but the wonderful thing about the work that the State Botanical Garden does is, and I took out these slides because I was afraid of taking too much time with you this afternoon, but we have a program called the Georgia Plant Conservation Alliance. It's approximately 30 years old. It has over 55 partner organizations, so that it includes Georgia Department of Transportation, Georgia Power, other universities, other gardens, and so we work all over the state. We couldn't do it all, but we can work in partnership with people across the state to safeguard our imperiled species, those 750 rare species in Georgia. And we work under the authority of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They're one of our partners. The USDA Forest Service is another partner, and Georgia DNR is another partner. So we work with the regulatory authority of those partners and with the permission of private and state land owners to help safeguard these species. The important thing to remember too is over 90% of land in Georgia is privately owned. So we are not going to move the needle on conserving our plant resources without working with private partners. And another, just still on the subject of rare plants, rare plants under the U.S. Fish and the Endangered Species Act are over 55% of the species, but they receive less than 5% of the funding. So it really does take groups like the Georgia Plant Conservation Alliance to take a look at what plants need. And our State Wildlife Action Plan, which was originally written, is probably more than you wanted to know, but sorry, it's a passion of mine. Our State Wildlife Action Plan, which was written 15 years ago, Georgia was the first state to even, well, there were only 8 out of 50 states that even mentioned plants in their state wildlife action plan. Georgia is a leader in this due to a lot of it has to do with partnership. And most recently, our partners in Georgia received a large grant, a federal recovery grant, the first one ever to be available to address conservation needs for plants. Plants don't have eyelashes, so usually all the funding goes to animals, which is important, but it's really wonderful to be able to work towards conserving rare plants in Georgia as well as the common ones. And that iNaturalist project is really, really cool. It's the Georgia Native Plant. I'll send you the connection to the iNaturalist project. And I would invite you all, and Will is a terrific speaker, and he would really love to come and talk with you sometime about the iNaturalist project. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay, thank you.
Western monarch butterfly visits are down by 30% this year. So that's more than they are. Other than collecting seeds permanently, what's the long-term solution?
Yeah, so it's one of those things, when you have a charismatic, some people call it gateway bug. It's a charismatic insect that people are watching, but it has to travel long distances. It's very vulnerable because its overwintering spot is in one location, although there are some that overwinter in southeastern US. Some of the keys to conserving monarchs are, yes, milkweed propagation. There's also a disease, a protozoa, that affects monarchs, and it's passed intergenerationally. So it causes a withering of their wings, and it is transmitted on tropical milkweed. So we have native milkweeds here in Georgia and across the United States, different species out west. So being aware of what species are native, and if you do have tropical milkweed, which is wonderful because it persists, it stays around year round, but then the protozoan load on that milkweed actually gets very high and it's easily transmissible to milkweed. So cutting back tropical milkweed can be a way to reduce the disease impacts on monarchs. It's going to take from several different fronts to address the needs of monarchs, but I'm so glad that people are paying attention, because what we do for monarchs can help lots of other insects and pollinators as well too. I hope that's helpful.
Okay. Anybody want to stop there?
It's possible, definitely possible.
So you've spoken a lot about native plants. What about this invasive
Definitely reducing them, because part of the reason that some of our species, our native species, are rare is because their habitats are gone. Privet, for example, along our rivers, privet is very prevalent in it, and English ivy, other invasive species. Like, there are many resources, some of them from the University of Georgia, which is also studying that protozoan on monarchs that I mentioned. I meant to mention that. So there are apps out there for mapping invasive species and reporting invasive species. So a lot of people are turning to digital resources to help map those things. But in the piece of the world where you have control, removing invasive species and planting native species is a great way to start. We don't advocate for eliminating all cultivars from the landscape, because not all cultivars, or things that are not native, are invasive. They can add beauty to the landscape. And so when we do Connect to Protect Gardens across Georgia, we have nearly 100 pollinator gardens that we've helped to build across Georgia. We sometimes add non-native, like violas and other things in there too, because humans need aesthetics in order to appreciate a space. And so if we can help to ensure the longevity of a garden space by adding in things that are non-native, like beautiful and non-invasive, then that can help give a leg up to the natives that we're also inviting into our landscapes as well too.
probably maybe I don't know. And the difference in how the gardens is between, did any of the plants in the garden?
We have shared plants with the Callaway Gardens. And so, for example, one of the largest populations of eared milkweed, Rudbeckia auriculata, which is the cutest sunflower. It's very tall and its leaves hang on to the stem and they look like little lilies. That's where it gets its name. That was the largest population we'd ever seen. They have some very, very large Florida torreas. We did not receive their plants, and my hope is that a lot of them are continuing to grow there at the Callaway Gardens.
We're going to have a board meeting there in March, so it's
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jenny, thank you for your leadership at UGA and what you're doing on behalf of our state. So, some of you are probably like me in that you think you know what the Botanical Gardens is like. You may have been there 10, 15, 20 years ago. When I was in college, I worked catering and did a number of weddings here. So I felt like I knew what it was like. But last 5 or 6 years, it has transformed. I mean, like she mentioned, Children's Garden, Porcelain Gallery, Winter Wonderland. I mean, this is a 50-plus-year-old organization that has grown dramatically under her leadership over the last 5 or 6 years. So if you haven't been in 10 years or so, go again, because it really has grown and improved. So again, thank you for being here. We'll make a donation in your name to Polio Plus, which is Rotary's effort to eradicate polio worldwide. So we do have some good programs coming up. If you'll plan to put those on your calendar and plan to be with us. So next week, President Angel Cabrera from University, just kidding. Not University of Georgia, not everything's UGA. Georgia Tech, President Cabrera is going to be here. They did beat Carolina last night. Big win. So February 14th, we're going to be at Oak Fusky Center. I think there's going to be a program on the calendar. We're finding out more, but that's going to be led by them. Star Student Program on February 21st, and the Storytelling Festival on February 28th. So look forward to having you back next week. Bridget.
No, me and Taylor had discussed some stuff, so I'm just trying to finalize with it.